Now, a surprise move by the IRS leading to plenty of controversy between faith leaders and legal experts. It all relates to a 1954 tax code provision saying churches and other nonprofits could lose their tax-exempt status if they participate or intervene in any political campaign. This could mean endorsing or even opposing a candidate in a race.
The rule has rarely been enforced by the federal government. And Monday, IRS officials said communications in good faith by a church to its flock does not amount to, quote, intervening or affecting the outcome of a political campaign.
Now, while some congregations see a new freedom to speak openly about preferred candidates, others see openings for campaign finance corruption, new pressures on religious leaders, and an overall entanglement between, oh yeah, that thing, church and state.
Yeah, I've heard about that before. We've got our chief legal analyst, Khalif Rhodes, back with us to talk about implications of this ruling. Khalif, here we go. I mean, obviously, we're not trying to get, political money flowing into the pews here, but where's that legal fine line between political ads from the pulpit and just informing the flock, as we just said?
I don't know if it's that we don't want to have that occurring right now. I mean, I would think in 1954 and all the way up until the other day when the IRS made that statement, I think that was the belief that you did not want this to occur. There's a couple prerequisites before we can get to not being a separation of church and state. In this situation, the major thing is first, it has to be done in good faith. The second portion is it has to be in the normal course of communication. So I think they've attempted to, even at a very minimum, to add some parameters where this doesn't turn into like the third stop of a campaign. Make no mistake about it, when you are campaigning and running for any office, be it, the local city council or for some national position, you're going to stop through the churches. That's just, it has to happen. Democrat or Republican, you have to go through the church circuit to be elected. Now, do churches make an endorsement? That's typically not happening. Are they even having conversations? Well, it tends on the church to be what kind of conversation they happens. So back to that good faith, back to that normal course of what you do. If you're a church that's already engaging in this type of thing where you're having candidates come and shake hands and introduce themselves, then this really doesn't change much. But if you were someone that was on the fringes, that was, we're not engaging in having anybody come into the church, then now this opens the door for you to at least feel a little bit more comfortable about it. But do I think that you'll see, like in the middle of services, campaign ads plastered on the screen? I don't think that would be the start, because I take it back to in the normal course. Now, if you're having discord and conversation about political candidates that align with your church's beliefs, then I think that's something that can happen, that can occur, and I think that it will probably occur a lot more.
Khalif, the interesting part of this is, right, the religious leader, their pastor, imam, rabbi, can say it during, their sermon and speaking to the congregation, but the church or synagogue, mosque can't go out and endorse it as an organization, a political candidate. Do you think some people might not be sure about how this all works and say, okay, so I can say something, but my organization can't? And then if you're a nonprofit saying, well, I want to get in on this, do they feel left out of the circle?
I think that those are all great questions, and those are concerns that people have raised and have been raising since this has been announced. I think that we won't know until it plays out. The biggest thing I have to also talk about is, while this was kind of hanging over churches' heads for the longest time since 1954, it was kind of like a bark with no bite. Think about it. No implementation, no enforcement since 1992, the one and only time Bill Clinton, the church went at him with an entire ad. Yeah, they lost their tax-exempt status. So it was just hanging out there and hovering. A lot of churches throughout that time, before 92 and after, have tried to force the IRS's hand to revoke their tax status. Why? As I mentioned here a number of times, good case, good facts, good court, you can get rules overturned. So they're saying, hey, pick me. I want you to take my tax status so that this case can go in front of the court. The IRS didn't take the bait and has really decided that one case was the one that went too far. I think right now people kind of recognize that this is a place that there's no enforcement and I can just play close to the line and still do the things that I want to do. But regarding like the congregation versus the leader, I think that will still be something that folks will just have to try to play and see. But the IRS isn't saying, okay, I'm watching service at Sunday at 11 to see who's now deciding to start running full page ads for the next presidential candidate. I mean, but if we get to that point and it does become this hotbed of dark money, I think that is something something that the IRS will have to try to figure out, well, how do we reel that back in? But I think those types of things have already occurred. You're already seeing political officials doing the types of things right now.
And I'm sure as we get closer to political season, we'll see it more. I mean, go back to Dr. Martin Luther King. I mean, he was from the pulpit, faith and activism during civil rights. Pastors feel, they say it all the time, that it's their moral obligation to educate their congregation, not say, I think you should vote for this candidate or that candidate, but if it's abortion, if it's immigration, if it's education, it's their moral obligation to help lead without saying you need to check this box when you go to the voter booth, but it's also about being active in your community.
I can
mobilization.
quickly address that. I know we're short on time. I had the opportunity to listen to all of Dr. King's sermons and listen to all of his speeches. It was a transition. So within the church doesn't really want to touch those things. They want to preach and they want to talk about God and the things are there. But at some point, as you mentioned, when society and those things kind of collide, as you listen, as he got older, as he progressed, he did start to talk about those social issues and political issues a lot more. I think we're in that era now of progressing where folks are engaging in those types of conversations on a longer basis.
All right, Khalif, appreciate that. We've got another couple topics next hour with Khalif.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.